It's good to see you guys here. It's good to be back home. The coach's eval of the game I thought went really strong. I think we're really working on doing simple better and looking at things that we've got to be able to get to the point to where we can play green and do all the things we talk about in the hardest, toughest, most competitive moments. And I think that there continues to be a push for that. And I think the ability to be patient and to be able to meet our players where they're at. I think the struggle a lot of times is to be pulled with expectations or noise and views from the outside. The challenge is always to keep the focus inward and to really get kids to be able to believe and trust and to reveal what they got inside. And I thought there's a lot of that on Saturday for us, and we're going to have to be able to take another step. I think it's always difficult when you try to be able to when there's an expectation of, hey, this is what it's supposed to be, but there's so many layers to that, and there's so many things that have to be, this is not connecting. This is wired to something else, and we've got to reconnect, and we've got to rebuild a trust, and we have to be able to have people come out and really perform in a way that they're not trying to pretend anymore. And I think I'm hopeful that we're on the right path there. So I thought this last game was a lot to do with all of it. In looking ahead, we're excited to play Oklahoma State. I have a lot of respect their coaches and their team. I think the first thing that strikes you is just the speed and the violence that they play with. On defense, brand new coordinator, but a lot of similarities really in terms of what's coming at you. Really strong four-man front, a lot of speed in the secondary, more single high, whether it's a man or three than we've seen, combined this year. And so, a lot of numbers in the box for us to deal with. And then, offensively, quarterback really stands out, really playing fast, looks faster, playing confident. I think they've got a running back by committee that's been successful. Their O-line, there's some cohesion there with guys returning. And I think receiver-wise, I'm sure they're anticipating getting guys back and all of it for this one. So what a challenge it is. Special teams-wise, a lot of speed, ability to be real explosive in the return game. And so that for sure jumps off the tape at you. But with that, take any questions you guys got.
Dave, would you expect your guys to be especially amped up for this game, considering y'all played them for the Big 12 championship last year, and it's kind of become a pretty good rivalry?
I appreciate the question. So I would like for it not to be, but then with us going through BYU, I would probably anticipate yes. And so they probably are. And so I think it's going to be really I see part of our job as coaches is to maybe bring it down a little bit to things that we can control and things that are actionable and things that kind of are in the benefit of the task at hand, and all that's way hard to do when it gets louder and it gets the outside gets more. And so I would like to be able to bring it really down to where we can start the week strong and kind of build the week all with inside stuff and not outside stuff.
Coach, maybe without even showing it to your players, when you played OK State twice last year, it was both really close games. From a coach's perspective, and not showing it to your guys, do you feel giddy about playing them again?
No, I appreciate the question. I think they are a challenge because of they're a strong team. I think they're built inside out. They don't crack under pressure. You have to beat them. I think their team speed really flashes off the tape. I think up to this point we've been kind of maybe possibly looked at as the faster team of whoever we played. This is probably not the case in this one. And I think they're they're kind of transitioning too into new guys and everything else. And, a road game for them and that. So I think their ability to play fast and violent is really what makes this a real competitive game.
Coach, you guys forced 4 turnovers in that Big 12 championship game. All those interceptions. You got 2 interceptions against Iowa State. How important was that? The kind of establishing, turning the ball over, and finally breaking through in that regard.
No, I appreciate that. I think so many more games are lost than they are won, and I think it's hard to get that point across, because I think you almost have to be over 45 years of age to really kind of appreciate that. I think the more you are in your teens and all of it, and early 20s, that almost falls on deaf ears, and so. But you look at whether it's penalties. I think like right now we're like 100th, and they are they're in top 10 in terms of being the best and not committing penalties. And then you look at takeaways, but you look at or offensive ball security, defensively getting it out, and so you look at ways to not lose the game first, and to try to be as alive and as authentic and playing green in the not losing piece is really kind of the trick, and don't overreach, and so we're definitely trying to hit that mark. I think I'm hopeful this last game kind of helps kind of set the expectation for this year's team.
Dave, to build on that a little bit, 4 previous games against Spencer Sanders, Baylor's intercepted him 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of success defensively. Mm-hmm. Does that give your guys sort of a level of optimism? I mean, you guys picked him off 7 times last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I appreciate that. I think it would have to go, though, to kind of what we've said in the past is, prior to playing Iowa State, it was, Ebner had the return for the touchdown. JT had the pick to close out the game. Abram had the run that moved the pile at the end of the game. Like all of those things, I think like those guys did that. Now there's a couple guys that kind of assisted in all of it, but those guys did, and those guys are gone. And so I think you kind of have to start there, and I don't necessarily say any of that to be ugly or to be kind of a flex of anything for them, but I think it's more of that. Hey, we're all starting on even ground. This thing has to be earned. Here's the stuff you can do today to earn it, right? Let's stack some days. But I think it has to be like that. If it's not, I think the appreciation of stuff that other guys have done can almost intoxicate you.
Richard taking advantage of his opportunities the past 2 weeks, has he earned 15 to 20 carries a game even when Tay comes back?
I think his improvement says so much just about him and about his ability to learn and his ability to take coaching. It's just way selfless. And then I think, I know Justin Johnson's done a great job. Juice done a great job with him, and really just with that group. It's kind of been, a running back by committee and, guys for certain spots. And then this last game, it had been enough of that to where this guy comes in, it's normally a pass. This guy comes in, it's normally a run, and things were flipped around, which I thought was good. And so I can kind of see that still becoming, just because of the guys and their roles and their successes are continuing to build. And so I think we like kind of where it is. And I credit Juice for a lot of it. I think he's really poured everything he has into that group.
You mentioned this game being kind of built up a little bit for your team, like the BYU game. So going into this, when you're 8-0, when you guys score on the first possession of a game, how big of an impact will it be for your offense if you're able to do that again and kind of set the tone for those guys?
I appreciate that. I wouldn't put it in those terms. I would say, or I'd like for them to hear rather that it would be, hey, this is what happens when you execute, and that you can still have a successful record, or you could still win if you didn't execute last series. That has nothing to do with this series that's about to come up. And so I just think I feel like with some of the youth of the team, there's just the ability for all of them to do the hard things and kind of go down before you come up, and they can say that I've earned it. And there just comes a confidence with that really you can't get any other way. And I think all the other ways that are kind of out there where you can kind of grab a false confidence or a false belief or anything like that, I don't know, I just feel I really have to be on the alert for that, because we will try to grab them and those things will vanish once a strong first quarter from an opponent will hit you. And so but yeah, I appreciate the question.
Dave, whether it's the intro videos on game day or even the hype videos on Friday night, it seems like y'all use a lot of the former players. You really feature them. How important is it for you to have kind of that bridge to the past? No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's just that's so important. I think that's everything. That's us, And so I talked to a couple guys a week and FaceTime them at the end of practice, former players, and you could see they've got their Baylor gear on and they're excited to talk, and I am too. And it's just, I don't know, for some of them it's as if they've never left, but for a lot of them it's like here I am, you found me, and so to make that connection, because this is their place, I just think there's no greater view of what's capable with Baylor football than a former player, and just his success in life and the families that he has and the work that he's doing and just how he's treating other people. I mean, I've seen that a million times over since I've been here, just way impressed. And the more that our current players get to see that and see this is really who you become, that's way cool.
Dave, Bryson Jackson has become a really big playmaker for you guys. What have you seen in his development over the last few years?
Confidence. Yeah, I think he's probably always been that guy, but has been just so humble that hasn't believed it, And, I think he has really found a niche as a third down pass rusher and then on special teams. And I think so it kind of becomes where when you're trying to do other things, you're fitting into maybe other positions or other roles and it don't work, and then you're struggling to process that, why it doesn't work, and then that hurts your opportunities with some of these other specific roles, and that can kind of go on for a year or two. And so it kind of takes, the ability to kind of take a pause and really reassess kind of what we got and see people with new eyes. And, the hardest work is for them to see themselves that way. And I believe that's what's happened there. So it's, couldn't happen to a better dude. Way strong leader. And, I'm always impressed when he speaks. He's got better words than me. So he is a great steward of all of us.
Coach, they haven't really been tested yet this year, and they have an extra week to prepare for you guys. How much do you feel like you have a grasp on what they like to do, and how much are you just going to have to be ready to adapt on Saturday?
I appreciate the question. I think it's going to be both. I think there is, on offense, there is a fair amount of history with who they are and what they like to do. and then especially with us, what they like to do with us. And there's been a constant, tight ends or three backs in the backfield. Is it one high? If we do there's 8 gaps in there. If we do match the gaps, taking shots on the outside. If we play with safeties that are back, and we have 7 for their 8, then running the ball, I very much see them that way. And so I think that's a consistent. They're playing with a lot more tempo. They're right now. I think they're the second fastest team in the country in terms of tempo. And so we played a fast team in the bowl game, and you could argue these guys are faster. And so that is different. I think it's always been a part of what they've done, but not to this degree. And so a big part of our prep is going to be getting ready for all of that. Then I think defensively it's going to be, with a new coordinator, but a lot of similarities from last year. So that may be where there's probably a little bit more question of, was that to kind of ease your way into it and then use the bye for whatever else? And so that's where I think the adjustments will come in.
You have to feel good about that wild game up in Iowa State, but only 3 penalties for 30 yards least on the year. You have to feel good about that. Yeah,
so we're trying to come down from the mid hundreds. So we'll see. I think we're at 100 now. So we'll see if we can get that thing down some more.
Coach, do you think that you'll have Khalil Key, Grant Miller, or Tay McWilliams back this week?
I don't believe we'll have Khalil or Tay. I think there's a good chance for Grant. So we're anticipating having Grant.
Did you see the Texans?
Yes. Very cool. Yeah. So I hit him up with congratulations, and he said, "Congratulations for me" on the sideline with a bunch of laughing, smiling emojis. So awesome.
Dave, how do you use the applied performance stuff with Eric Rash, and then how do y'all use that, and how important is that for your program?
Yeah, appreciate that. I think what Eric brings and that technology is really just a science to what maybe, whether it's emotionally or anything coaches would generally kind of feel or kind of guesstimate, I guess. He brings a kind of numbers and a math to it. And I think it's something when the players can see it, they can probably see it clearer than maybe like a story or something where I'm just confusing them. And so like 2 examples there would be over 20 miles per hour, just run full speed would be one. And the other would be we calculate if things are under 3 or less. And so last week's practice week was the best week we've had in terms of we had the least amount of guys walking on the field in any given so far this year. And so and it felt like that was the best week of practice we had. But then you come and you look at the numbers and it validates it or it shows it. And so it's pretty cool.
Coach, next week is College Football Mental Health Awareness Week. Mm-hmm. How important is it just to have those conversations with your players and for them to know their resources?
No, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's so important, and I think it's getting to be where, I think where I feel a lot of that stands is that people realize how important it is to talk about that, and to recognize and to appreciate the people that do. But then at the same time, that's not me, right? That I don't have problems to talk about, or I don't have any issues, or I don't need to talk to anybody. So I think that's where the struggle is I feel it's good that there's a breakthrough, that everyone recognizes that it's a way important piece. And you think about the person over the player, it's really kind of everything. But then I think the push through still is to get it to where, that's me, that's you, that's everybody. And that's not, and the ability to talk to someone and get stuff out, or to to know that feeling a certain way, right, or to feeling down, or to feeling like you're not good enough, or any of those things, that it's okay to talk about, I think is way strong. And I think we're really, our people here are very much into that, and I am too.
When we look at, obviously heading into this week, it's important that you guys start fast and kind of don't dilly-dally. You said that you saw a lot of happy faces on the sidelines, but then that's when you guys started to give up some big plays. How do you prepare kind of mentally for that, to not let up if you guys do end up building up a lead?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's human nature to want to relax and to want to maybe be externally validated, and to to take a breather. I think especially when things, if you feel some tightness and some point in the game, when that game does open up, I think it's natural for everyone to go, and I just, if you just take a pause and step back and look at our conference and look at all of it, there's not going to be a lot of games where that's going to be the case, where you can kind of take that sigh of relief, during a game. And so I think that's just kind of a hard reality. But you have to train for that, though. And so if you're not living your life like that, or you're not practicing or going about your process that way, in terms of continually saying yes to hard things and saying no to the easy things, but then being expected to do it on Saturday, that generally doesn't work out too well.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.